In this tutorial, we're going to use Adobe Illustrator CC 2020 to go through Classroom Book Chapter 12. This is part 2 of using brushes to create a poster. So when we left off, we had just finished creating these funky brush trees, and now we're going to go ahead and create some bristle brushes in order to create kind of some smoke coming out of the chimney. So let's go ahead now. I'm going to reopen my brushes, so window and brushes in case you closed it. And I'm going to go here into my list view, and let's now grab those bristle brushes and turn off my art brushes. All right, not sure what that's doing. Oh, come back. I did it wrong. I want to go ahead and do that. All right, now it's where I want it to be. So let's go ahead and double click this mop brush. So we're going to go ahead and change some of those brush options. So instead of a round fan, let's go ahead and make it a flat fan. And let's make it 3 millimeters. Let's make our bristle length 150. Our bristle density is going to be 33. Our thickness is going to be 50. Our opacity is going to be about 75. And our stiffness is about 50. Let's go ahead and say yes. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure we're painting on the same layer as the chimney. So let's go ahead with our zoom tool and zoom in a few times so we can see that chimney a little bit better. Oh, let's go ahead, grab our selection tool, grab the chimney so we can kind of tell it where we want to zoom in. Grab my hand, move down. All right, now I don't want to brush on all of this, so let's go ahead and select and deselect. So now if you look at your layers, you will see that we are on that cabin layer. Let's go ahead on our paintbrush tool and grab that mop brush. Make sure our fill color is set to none and our stroke color is set to white. Escape to close that back down. And let's make it about 4 points. And I want to go ahead and I want to make some smoke kind of coming up out of this chimney. So you kind of want a little bit of an S shape. And release the mouse when we want to end the path. So let's go ahead and kind of start here in the chimney-ish. All right. It's not very moppy, is it? Everything's right, though. Seems like it should be more. Let's cancel. Oh, my stroke's too little, that's why. I'm going to do an undo and get rid of that guy. Now it says a 4 point. Brush 3. Mop. Okay. It says it's right. Oh, I made it go bananas. All right, let's go ahead and redraw that smoke coming up out of there. And maybe draw a little bit more smoke. And when you're done and you're happy with it, I got fatter smoke last time. Not really sure why I got fatter smoke last time. It's kind of weird. I want fatter smoke. I wonder what happens then. Apply it to the strokes. There we go. I like that better. All right, so create your smoke however you like it. Play with your bristles and the sizes and things. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to clean up the shapes a little bit. So we're going to change the stroke color for a few of the paths we drew. So let's go ahead and go into a view and come down here to outline because it's a little bit hard sometimes. So let's grab that selection tool. And let's go ahead and select one of the paths of one of the smokes that we have. And let's go ahead and change that color to light gray. So light gray is here on the second row, kind of the fourth one in. So we're going to go ahead and change the color of that one. Let's go to View and grab that GPU preview so we can see that one now is kind of gray where the other ones are kind of white. So you can always go back through and change those. So let's go now and grab our select. Oh, I wanted to do something else. No, we're right. Okay, select object bristle brush. And it's going to grab all those things that we made with the bristle brush. And let's go now and tell it to group. So it makes one big group. And let's go ahead and bring that opacity down to about 50% or so. So it's more subtle. All right, let's go ahead and do a deselect and a file save. All right, now we're going to go ahead and use some pattern brushes in order to turn these yellow lines into the house itself. So if we look at the house itself, we see it's got kind of some texture, a whole lot of stuff going on, and we don't want to necessarily have to draw those. So let's go now to our View Fit Artboard window. Let's go ahead and grab our hamburger menu, our panel menu, and let's look at those pattern brushes and go ahead and turn off those bristles. Now let's go ahead with our selection tool. Let's double click one of those yellow paths. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one so we're in isolation mode because we only want to change those. Let's come down here to our brushes library menu at the bottom. And let's go ahead and grab borders. And we want border frames because these are actually going to give us some wood looks. And if you don't have the list view, go ahead and turn on that list view. Go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. And I want to go ahead and grab mahogany. So now that is going to be in my list. Go ahead and close down that brush library. Now in the mahogany right here, let's go ahead and click on the Options of Selected Object button. So our selected object is this. And we want to go ahead and click the brush named Mahogany. So we want to go ahead right here on this little kind of list right next to it. And let's go ahead and change some of those properties. So let's go ahead and make sure we have our preview turned on. Let's go ahead and change our scale down to about 70% to make those lines kind of a little bit smaller. Or you can type in 70. And that's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and say OK. Oh, undo. I did it way wrong. What did I do wrong? I am doing something really wrong. Cancel. Click the brush. Apply it to all the paths in the panel. Close the border frames group. Click the options for panel. Doing all these things. Change scale to 70. Click OK. Press escape to get out of the isolation mode. All right, not sure what I did last time, but it was something really special. All right, so let's go select and deselect, and let's do a file save. All right, so now my house has nice siding on it. So now what we're going to do is create a pattern brush in order to create these little lights. If we look at the sample, we're going to create these little lights hanging off the deck and the ones on the door. So we're going to do that by creating a pattern brush. So first thing we're going to do is switch over to our artboard number 3. Now let's go ahead and grab our selection tool. And we're going to turn this into a brush itself. So let's grab our selection tool. Let's grab that group. Let's click on the panel menu for brushes and change to thumbnail view. All right, so switch it to thumbnail view so you can kind of see what's going on there. And now we want to go ahead and turn this into a new brush. So in brushes, we're going to come down here to the plus sign, and we're going to go ahead and tell it to be a new brush. It's going to say what kind of brush. We want to make it a pattern brush and say OK. It's going to give you all kinds of options, things like what do you want the corners to look like, what do you want inside corners, what do you want ends. So for this point, let's go ahead and call it lights. And let's go ahead and look at this second one over. So you can kind of see your spacing options. We want the side tile box, that one. And you can kind of see what we're going to do. So you can click on this one and click outer corner. So we want our outer corners to go ahead and be auto between. So you can kind of see how it changes. Kind of tell how that looks right there. That looks weird. So I'm going to do auto between and say OK. And we're going to go ahead and that's going to now appear in our brushes panel. So let's do a select and a deselect. Let's go back over to our cabin itself. So let's go ahead back to our artboard number 1. We want to go ahead and grab that selection tool. We want to grab that green horizontal path right there. And just the green horizontal path. Let's go do a little plus so I can kind of see more. And toward the bottom of the toolbar, let's go ahead and make sure our fill box is set to none. And our stroke is set to none. Because we really want to get rid of that green line. It's mostly there for your reference. And now we want to go ahead with that path still selected. Let's go ahead and click on the lights brush to go ahead and put that in there. But you see they came in really big. We're going to go ahead and edit those. Let's go ahead and do a deselect. So select and deselect. Let's go back to our number 3 board. We're going to do a couple things here. Let's go ahead and click on our swatches tab to show the swatches menu. So if you don't have it showing, do window and swatches. And what we're going to do right now is with our selections tool, we're going to grab these 2 pieces. It's actually got a clear light bulb, you just can't tell. And we're going to drag this up into our swatches. So it's now going to become one of our swatches. Let's go ahead and do a select and deselect because we don't want to look at that light bulb anymore. And let's go ahead and go back to our active board number 1. Now from the brushes panel, we want to change those lights just a little bit. So let's go to our brushes and let's double click. And now instead of having this as our brush, we want to scroll down and we want to get that new pattern swatch. So you see on the corner, we're actually going to get that white light bulb instead of the other light bulbs. And let's go ahead and change that scale down to about 20% so we get much smaller. See, much smaller, cuter little lights. And let's go ahead and say OK. Let's go ahead and tell it to apply it to strokes. So apply where we've already put it. So now we've got them changed. We don't see that little white one because there are no corners. So let's go ahead and Control plus in. And we want to grab just with our selection tool, just this path around the door. And let's go ahead on the lights brush on the panel to apply it. So let's go ahead and click on here. It's going to go ahead and you're going to notice that the white bulbs are now on the corner. Let's do a select and deselect. The white bulbs are on the corner and the yellow ones are in between. So you kind of have some cute little Christmas lights going on. All right, make sure nothing's selected. Let's do a Control S, and we're going to actually work with the blob brush. We're getting pretty close. We're actually going to draw some flowers now. So let's go ahead to our artboard number 4, which you're going to notice is blank, and it's supposed to be. That's okay. Let's go ahead to our swatches panel, and let's go window and swatches. I don't know why I closed it. All right, let's go ahead with our swatches panel, and we want to grab the fill box. We want to call it flower. So let's go, we got to have our brush open. So our fill is going to be this flower color. Our stroke, let me hit escape, is going to be none. And we're now going to go ahead and draw with the blob brush to create that flower. So the blob brush creates a fill and a stroke before we start to draw. That stroke color becomes a fill color, becomes kind of the drawing itself. So let's go ahead to our paintbrush tool. And let's go ahead and hold down or double click. Oh, cancel. We want to go ahead and hold down and grab that blob brush, which is the second one down. Now I want to double click because I want to change my brush a little bit. Let's go ahead and make sure Keep Selected is on. Let's change that size to about 70 points. We want a big old blob brush. We're going to say OK. And now we're going to go ahead and draw a flower shape. It does not have to be perfect. When we draw with the blob brush, we're going to get some closed filled shapes. And don't worry, it's got some little bumps. It's going to smooth those out. All right, that is the funniest looking flower I've ever seen. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do is grab our selection tool. We're going to edit our flower shape a little bit. Let's go ahead and go to our eraser because we're going to give it kind of a center. So let's go to our eraser. Let's double click on it and change our eraser size because we're actually going to cut out the size that we want for the middle. So let's go ahead and make it about 40 points and say OK. And now what we're going to do is just in the middle kind of create and remove and create kind of a center. It's supposed to be kind of hand drawn. All right, so I'm totally happy with it. Let's do a select and a deselect. Let's grab our selection tool, grab our flower. Let's do an edit and a copy. Let's go over here to our artboard number 1. And let's do a Control V to paste. Let's go ahead and bring that over to our flower, to our tree. It's obviously very, very large, so I'm going to hold my shift and bring it way down. Do some Control Plus and kind of see my tree a little bit more. And I'm actually going to center some of these around some of these little pink dots on here. And let's take a look at our layers and see where we're actually drawing. We're drawing on the cabin layer. That's okay. You could unlock that tree and skies. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my alt. And let's draw a couple more bright pink flowers on that tree. You can always change the size of those flowers. Totally up to you as to what your tree is going to look like in the end. All right. So now what I want to do is get rid of some of my extra stuff off the sides because I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to grab my selection and just grab over top of all 3, select those. Got this extra tree over here. Select that. And I'm going to come over here to my artboards tool. And with my artboard, I can go ahead and select and delete those artboards themselves. I can do an object and artboard and fit artwork to bounds. And it's going to, oh, undo. It's over there. Oh, we got a whole bunch more trees over there. That's fun. Maybe I'll get rid of all that. All right, now let's try object, artboard, fit artwork to bounds. And I don't like how it's doing that. Undo. All right, I'm going to leave it be for now. And let's go ahead and I could clip it. I don't feel like clipping it. All right, just do a Control Save. You don't necessarily need to package this one. We don't have a lot of extra stuff. So let's go ahead and practice it anyway. File package. Make sure you're putting it in your lesson 12 folder. And say select. And instead of folder, let's do PKG, just so we stay in that practice folder. And package. Show my package. It's going to go ahead and open up in a new folder. So I'm going to go ahead with my lesson 12, right click, send to compressed file. And that is going to be the one I turn in. So I hope you enjoyed working with brushes and creating a poster today.